John in Colorado, pronouns are he, him. You had a question for me, John. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, John.
Hey, is this the Matt?
Well, there's lots of Matts in this world, but I'm the one that hosts the Atheist Experience. Yes.
Okay. The screen color got my question, right? So
it says here, just to make sure,
really hard.
Just to make sure that you're right. What it says here is, it says, Matt, you're smart. How could you have lost your faith? Faith is like math. 1 + 1 = 2. How could that stop being true?
Right.
Cool. Do you want me to answer based on what the call screener took, or you want a minute to kind of beef up your question a bit?
Okay, we'll beef up, okay?
Go for it. Put a minute on the clock. Go for it, John. Thank you.
You studied this stuff. You were you went through seminary, didn't you?
No.
No? But you could have. The amount of
I was going to. But I found out it was unnecessary.
But I'm just saying, you really looked into it.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, my question would be, well, where was that point where you had studied all these things? You studied the Bible, you studied history, you probably studied the founding fathers, and so on and so forth. I mean, you must have been insane to do that amount of study compared to most of us. I mean, it must have seemed that important. And then all of a sudden you've reached this point where you don't believe that anymore. That's all lies. What was that point?
Okay. So you hit on several things. I'll try and kind of put it together in a package. First of all, yes, I studied what the founding fathers said, and what the founding fathers said is completely irrelevant to whether or not there's good reason to believe that there's a God. What the founding fathers actually said is irrelevant to what the country, the United States, should or shouldn't be, because the founding fathers could be wrong about any number of things. But when you say, hey, I know that 1 + 1 = 2, and how could that change? Well, 1 + 1 = 2 for appropriate definitions of 1 + equals and 2. But generally speaking, we can demonstrate the truth of what we mean by 1 + 1 = 2. That's not the case for any proposed God belief or God claim that I'm aware of. And so what I found was that I didn't get mad at a God. I didn't get irritated at a church or anything else. I explored whether or not I had good reason, because I wanted to be able to witness. I was going to be a preacher, and I wanted to be able to witness to atheists and answer their questions. And in the process of studying this study, which you seem to think would make one insane, I found that what I believed did not have good.
You insane, Matt.
Okay, maybe you're not paying attention, but you didn't say that I was insane. You thought it was insane to do this much studying, like an insane amount of studying.
To pursue something that doesn't make sense is, well, it's kind of crazy.
It's not pursuing something that doesn't make sense. What I was doing was investigating the beliefs that I had, and the beliefs that millions of other people have, and the beliefs that everybody around me were saying were true. And I found that they could not present evidence-based sound arguments for those beliefs. And if that's the case, then belief isn't warranted, so I couldn't continue believing.
Okay. Let's go back to the beginning, okay?
Which beginning?
You had heard the gospel, right? And then you started to read the Bible.
Preached it.
You studied it also.
Yeah.
I mean, you study history.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a historian, but yes.
You know what, man? You are a historian.
I'm not.
So much history now.
I'm not.
Okay, fine, you're not. But John, to me, technically you are.
Okay, John. So it seems to me that what you're saying is that I know way more about any of this stuff than you do, right?
I'm saying you've had the ambition that drove you to look up all this stuff. And yes, I think you've seen more than I have. I do think
Okay.
that.
So
You've
why
read the
won't you just take my word for it and stop believing?
Just take your word for it?
Well, I'm asking you why you won't just take my word for it, since I know more about it than you do. Why don't you just take my word for it and stop believing?
Well, I'm telling you, you seem so intelligent, more than me, that I'm almost inclined to do that.
Well, you shouldn't do that. That's my point. You should not give up your belief just because I know more about it than you and I said so, any more than you should believe because someone who appears to know more than you said so. How much I know and what I understand is irrelevant to whether or not you should be convinced of something. And so the question here becomes not so much what does Matt know? What I know is irrelevant. If you're a believer, the question is, why do you believe? Because if you have a good reason, the rest of us would like to know it. And if you don't have a good reason, we'd like to know why you continue to believe without a good reason.
Well, I have a reason, but it's the same reason that you don't believe it. I'm saying you've looked at history. You've read the Bible. You've thought about all this incessantly. You have. And personally speaking, yes, I believe you're more intelligent than I am, and you thought about it. And what I'm saying is, to begin with, I mean, starting out, you believed it. Well, what happened?
I already told you what happened. No, John, I asked you a specific question, which is, we're curious as to why you still believe and what that reason is, because if you're right, we would like to share that belief. And if you're wrong, we'd like to understand why you believe when you don't have a good reason. And that's why I was asking why you believed. What I believe is irrelevant.
Oh. I don't think what you believe is irrelevant. That's why I called. Because you believe, I mean, you
whether
John,
whether or not I believe in a God is irrelevant to whether or not you have good reason to believe in a God.
Oh. Okay. I mean, do you want to hear why I believe?
That's why I've asked a couple times.
Okay. Well, you did. Well, I had a lot of free time. I was on the internet. I'm looking up history. I'm looking up stuff about logic and reasoning and all that sort of thing. Now, I know you're not going to believe anything I say. Of course you won't. You've made up your mind. But the world that's around us currently, cause and effect. Certain things happened in the past, and that's why the world is the way it is right now. And when I look back into the past, I'm like, did a lie change the world like this?
So just to be clear, your reason for believing in the supernatural being is because there's no way that somebody could have lied about it because it has such a big impact. I don't understand what you're getting to.
Yeah, I took notes while you were explaining to me.
I admit, I can be...
John, hang on. I took notes while you were trying to explain to us why you believed. And what you said is you had free time, you were searching the internet, you looked into history, you looked into logic. You know that I'm not going to believe anything you say, which is you poisoning the well to begin with, and that I've already made up my mind, which is absolutely dishonest. Forrest and I are both willing to be convinced, provided somebody actually presents argument and evidence. And so our minds are tentatively made up. I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Always looking for new evidence.
Then after that, you said cause and effect with no real description of what you meant by that. Things happened in the past that affected today. And then you got to this point, did a lie change the world? Let me answer that question. Yes. Many, many, many lies have fundamentally changed the world. That doesn't tell you whether or not Christianity is a lie. It doesn't tell you whether or not Islam is a lie. But yes, lies can and do change the world. We've just suffered through 4 years of a lying, fucking disgusting president, and it definitely changed the world. So yeah, lies impact the world.
Okay, that's a fine answer for me. Lies do affect the world, and I can be tricked. I'm not smart enough to see through all the lies.
Okay, but I still want to know what your reason is for believing.
I was calling about you as a person. I'm not trying to attack you. I was just wondering, what was the turning point?
I studied this stuff and I found out that I don't have a good reason. And for the last 17 years, I've sat on the show asking people to tell me what their good reason is. And nobody can even put together. All right, that's not true. Most people, yourself included, haven't even put together a cogent response of what the reason is when they're directly asked. Like if you go back and play from the moment you said that you had a reason and you were going to offer it until we actually got through everything you said, nothing you said was in any way a reason to believe. And after so many years of doing it, it'd just be nice. Now, granted, I've done debates against serious theologians and they make arguments. I've had people use Bayesian analysis to try to demonstrate that God is more probable than not. And people are, well, where did the trees come from and all this other stuff. But when I asked you basically said
Those are great debates, by the way.
Thanks. But you said you spent time on the internet and then you worried, did a lie change the world? I must have come from somewhere. And so now you believe in what? I don't even know what it is that you believe in. Are you like advocating for a Christian God? How'd you determine that? It's strange for me to say, tell me what you believe and why. And granted, I did not say that word for word at the beginning of this call, but I still don't know what you believe. And I still don't know why, even though I have asked the why now a couple of times.
Okay, so I didn't give you a good enough answer.
I just want to know why you believe, even if your answer is bad. Like, I believe because I just can't imagine that life began without a God. Okay, then at least that's something we can discuss. But if you don't give us something concrete to discuss, we just have to move on.
Okay, well, I know listening is difficult for all of us. You have that problem. I do too, in terms of talking to somebody and sitting there listening. And people don't do that. It's very frustrating. I'm saying, Matt, you are smart. I do believe that. You have studied all these things. You were about to become a preacher, and then all of a sudden, everything went in reverse. Like it was all a lie, and you were convinced it was a lie.
No, that's not the case.
Did we just start from the beginning again? Did we just refresh the call?
Yeah, because first of all, now you're saying what you said before, but I didn't determine it was a lie. I determined I didn't have good reason to believe that it was true. Those are different things. It's the difference between.
Well, if I'm not telling you the truth.
It's the difference between being convinced that a defendant is innocent and not being convinced that they're guilty. And so we vote not guilty. But if you get a not guilty verdict, that doesn't mean people are convinced you're innocent. It just means they didn't have enough evidence to convince to say that you were guilty.
Well, that's not a bad analogy.
Well, yeah, I've used it for 20 fucking years. I know it's a good analogy. Are you going to answer the question about why you believe? Because if not, I got other callers waiting and we're wasting time retreading the same ground.
Well, I did tell you the reason.
What is it?
I mean, no, you didn't. You said we've been listening to you the whole time. It's not that we just don't like listening. It's that the closest you got to saying what you believed was that
you were hearing.
Yeah,
I know that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, John. I'm going to ask you one more time, because now you're accusing us of hearing but not listening. When, if you rewind this call, you're the only one that misheard what was said and accused me of accusing you of claiming I was insane, when that's not what I said, and I accurately represented what you said. I also took notes and went through everything that you said in a summary. I had notes here that went through how you had free time and started studying history. I take fucking notes. So don't sit there and say that we weren't listening to you. I'm going to give you one more chance. Why do you believe there's a God?
Well, my previous answer was, look at the world around us. You're telling me that America founded the way it was based on a lie. Christianity based on a lie. This thing that changed the world, it's a big lie, isn't it?
America wasn't founded on Christianity. And also, yes, we already covered that, yes, lies can change the world. So, yeah, we covered that. Not true things can have big impacts on the world. Also, America wasn't founded on that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm talking
yes,
about
things happen in the world.
Order. Israel exists, does it not?
It sure does, because a lot of people believe a thing. That doesn't make the thing true.
Did it come out of nowhere?
It was put there by humans. Humans drew lines on a map.
That
doesn't mean God is real.
Believe something. They're a nation on the planet.
Yeah. Does that make it true?
So you're saying it came out of nowhere, and it's inexplicable.
I said that people put it there. People believed a thing. They made a country. And now the country exists.
Right. And this
does that make it true?
Thinks that they have their rights coming from God.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. John, no, sir. First of all, more than 50% of Jews living in Israel are secular, atheistic. Okay. So don't pretend that the entire nation of Israel believes something. But even if the entire nation of Israel, even if the entire world believed that they were the product of a God, that doesn't mean they are. And it's dishonest and disingenuous for you to cite Israel as proof of God while ignoring whether or not Muslim regimes are proof of Islam, or whether or not
to say, like, does India and Pakistan prove that Islam and Hinduism are true? Like,
right there.
I know it's a good argument.
And
the thing is, why do you keep presenting bad ones?
But I'm just saying, Israel's there.
So fucking
no one disagrees that Israel's
India's there too, as is Bangladesh, but they weren't always there, and they won't always be there. Human beings create boundaries, borders, governments, and all of that, and they do it based on shared beliefs, whether those beliefs are accurate or not.
New York City is there. Is Spider-Man real, and Iron Man and all them?
Why? Because we're social creatures who are great apes who descended from other social creatures.
I was going to go into that, but I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. I heard the previous caller. I didn't want to go into evolution and all that.
I tell you what, John, at this point, I think we've gone in circles way too much. We've given you too many opportunities to present why you believe. And your reason for believing is, look at the world. Was America founded on a lie? Well, first of all, America was not in any way founded on Christianity. And we have documents, including the Treaty of Tripoli, that expressly state that. A document which was unanimously approved by Congress begins with the United States being in no way founded upon Christianity. That's an official unanimous treaty signed by the U.S. So the U.S. wasn't founded on Christianity. I know there's tons of stuff you don't know. But if you keep reaching conclusions based on things that you heard or things that you think might be true or what you don't know about something, then you're going to keep finding out that you're wrong because you haven't come up with a method
I'd like
to make sure that your positions are reasonable.
Right. Well, I would just like to know the truth. I don't care what it is.
Well,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Do you know a way to find truth? Do you know a way that you can start testing the universe around you?
Not really. I mean, look, man, Matt, I'm telling you, you studied. I know you're a smart guy. And I was just curious. I'm like, he read all this stuff. He was about to become a preacher and everything. And now he's not doing that. And it's like the opposite. And, well, why did that happen?
Because I'm smart.
That I didn't find out.
The same reason I went to business school and then became a scientist instead. People find out that things aren't real and you move on.
I investigated.
So I have to look at myself and go, look, I'm stupid. I can't.
You're not.
No, you just have to ask questions of yourself and don't assume that you know everything about everything because you already just... If you question your most deeply held beliefs and ask why you know what you know, which is what we've been asking you over and over this whole time, why do you think this? And just saying, well, this is real, so I can't say it isn't, that doesn't work. Like, ask how you actually know a thing and actually poke and prod and ask questions.
I no longer believe you, John. I no longer believe you, John, and we're not going down this same loop 3 or 4 times while I have 7 other people on hold. So thanks for calling. We're moving on.
Hey, Matt.
Yep.
You're very smart and you studied a lot of things. You should know that. I don't think you've heard that enough today.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
As if someone coming in to tell me how smart I am is going to make me be nicer to them.
It was everything he said. You're very smart, therefore Israel exists. What?
Yeah, it's great.